glaciers are fucking scary. Ice ages are scary. When it gets warm, you just move.
Hi, and welcome to, or back to, my channel, where I offer my thoughts and opinions about whatever catches my attention. I'm Kit, and today, well, as those of you who follow my Instagram know, I went down to Louisville in December for Lindsey Stirling's Snow Waltz concert. And for those of you who don't follow my Instagram, disobedient Jezebel by the way, that is something I did. Louisville is about a 5-hour drive from Michigan, more if it's snowing, which of course it was, and so, like the normal, well-adjusted person I am, I decided to listen to Joe Rogan's... Is interview the accurate description here? I feel like yes, but it also felt more like a conversation than an interview. Well, I listened to Joe Rogan chatting with Chris Williamson, and that is what we're going to talk about today. I would like to offer congratulations to Chris on this being the only video of him that I've seen that does not mention the birth rate. The video opens with them already mid-conversation.
Just stave off death.
Well, doesn't it do something for your mind? Doesn't it help you?
Yeah, of course it does, but when you compare it with life and death, there's a little bit of a difference.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely a difference, but just for mental health, that's the main reason to do it for me. It's mental health. It's such a difference between not doing it and doing it. I'm like two totally different people. You got notes on that thing or something?
Always.
You got to get one of these babies, little kickstand jammies.
I have no idea what it is. Could be sex, could be vaping, we'll never know. Anyway, they wander a lot in this video, but then it is almost 3 hours long, and I think that is the Joe Rogan experience. You experience Joe Rogan talking to a variety of famous and semi-famous people, which doesn't sound interesting enough to be called an experience, but whatever. Most of it is just harmless chatter, but there were a few things that made me go, what, during my drive, and I wanted to share my thoughts. If you are a diehard Joe or Chris fan and you don't care about my thoughts, you are free to click off this video. And if you must, you're also free to share your thoughts about how you don't care what I think below. So, first up, Greta Thunberg.
Greta Thunberg, she dyed the Venice canals green to protest a lack of action and climate change.
Yeah, pull back, a call to pull back carbon fuel in Europe. And they didn't just do it in Venice, they did it at 10 cities around Italy. But Venice has obviously got this gorgeous waterway. It's an entire city built on water.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah, that's hard to see how ugly it is, Jamie. I could send you a video of it because I sent Chris a video. It's, it's just like, how much attention do you need, lady? Okay? Stop.
Sky News Australia refers to her as a Swedish doom goblin.
Quote, Miss Thunberg joined 36 other climate activists from Extinction Rebellion as they turned the waterways, lakes, and fountains in 10 Italian cities a vibrant shade of green on Monday. The stunt coincides with the 30th meeting of the Conference of the Parties Summit, with protesters unhappy that agreements made by governments at the Brazilian summit did not include limits on the use of fossil fuels. More than 30 countries, including from European nations, signed a letter warning Brazil they would reject any deal without a plan to move away from oil, gas, and coal over the weekend. The conference, which came to an end on Sunday with a variety of compromises, leading many campaigners to express disappointment. But the EU, which had warned that the summit could end without a deal if fossil fuels were not addressed, eventually accepted, despite what many saw as a backward step following the watering down of language. End quote. I have so much to say I don't even know where to begin. These two clowns sit in their air-conditioned studios, both with the easiest jobs in the world, and laugh at a young adult attempting to affect change in the world. And unsurprisingly, because I suspect they're both rather shallow, they completely miss the point. Maybe they miss the point on purpose because neither of them run shows based on critical thinking and they don't want their audiences to start doing that. Maybe they miss the point because they're lazy. But regardless, the point is not Greta Thunberg. Do these two think she joined the Freedom Flotilla to Gaza for funsies? Because she thought it would be a cute camera opportunity? I don't think I really want their opinion on that because it would probably just be more stupidity, but these two don't seem capable of realizing that other people do things because they care about those things. Greta isn't an activist for the attention. She's an activist because she cares about the people in Gaza, she cares about the climate, as we all should, because even if you don't care about other people, it's going to affect you eventually no matter how much money you have. And if you think Elon Musk is going to take you to Mars before it gets too bad, enjoy your delusion. Climate change is already affecting us, by the way, and it's happening faster than anticipated. I truly don't understand this, well, things are fine for me right now. Especially coming from Chris, who is usually so pressed about people having kids. Or, plot twist, Chris Williamson doesn't actually have any kids because he's secretly concerned about climate change. Okay, new subject before I have an aneurysm over how stupid and short-sighted these two are.
So that's what it looks like. That's disgusting. I was there this summer. It's fucking beautiful. Venice is so gorgeous and so ancient and so interesting. And to have this self-important twat pour a bunch of green dye into that water, you should go to jail for that. Like, you're ruining this experience for thousands and thousands of people who don't, not just the ones who live in that amazing place, but the ones who get to visit.
Okay, well, I lied. But seriously, imagine being so upset a body of water was temporarily dyed. What do these two think will happen to waterways in the future? If you're going to be upset at someone, be upset with the corporations that are destroying the planet and with the politicians who sit idly by while it happens. Don't be upset with the activists. Okay, seriously? Not moving on yet. Apparently Joe had on to amazing scientists whose names he can't remember, and global cooling is actually what we have to fear, and this is all normal. Whatever helps him sleep better at night. For real, no, we are not moving on yet.
Glaciers are fucking scary. Ice ages are scary. When it gets warm, you just move. And I know that sucks if you're living in a city of 20 million people, but it hasn't happened yet. And they've been talking about it forever.
They've been talking about it forever? Is Joe 14? Is this reminding anyone else of Ben Shapiro's comment that if your house in Florida floods because of rising water levels, just sell it and move? Who's going to buy that house, Ben? Where are people going to move, Joe? And setting aside it's not as though a single city or two are going to be affected, is Joe okay with people moving countries to... Well, climate change will affect all of us, but to mitigate the effects? Also, moving costs money, and climate change is already affecting the world's poorest people and making poverty worse. Do these two think beyond their own noses, or... I'm so baffled by people who are like, well, Miami isn't underwater yet, and we should strive for it not to be. Not just for the people who live in Miami, but also we all benefit from a cleaner world. We all benefit from proactivity, not reactivity. And now we're seriously moving on.
There's a thing called sandbagging, okay? And sandbagging has always existed. Sandbagging is, let's say that you're going to enter into a jiu-jitsu tournament and you're going into the purple belt division, but you've been a purple belt for 8 years and you're supposed to be a brown belt. And they, for whatever reason, or you could even, here's a worse one. Maybe you're a black belt in judo, like an elite black belt, and you enter into a jiu-jitsu tournament in the white belt division. And you're in there with some fucking dork who's a plumber who's just started taking classes. I think it would be fun to compete. And you fucking flip him on his head and break his arm in an arm bar in like 15 seconds. Like, that's sandbagging. Because you're an elite athlete. You're like a world-class judo guy that's just thought it would be fun to put a white belt on and enter into a jiu-jitsu tournament. There's people that do that because they just want to win. That's why people cheat at video games. That's why people cheat at golf, right? People cheat because they want to win. They just want to get that W. And there's people that will pretend they're a woman to beat up women. And if you don't think that's the case, you haven't met enough psychos. Because are there people that are in the wrong body? I don't know. I'll give them that respect. I'll give them that dignity. Are there also people that are out of their fucking mind and want an excuse to beat up women and pretend they're a woman? If you tell them they could wear a dress and they could just run past all the ladies and dominate them on the field, yeah, they're going to do that too. That's a real type of human being.
Yes, there are people who cheat because they want to win. And no, trans women aren't pretending to be women so they can beat up women. My mind is blown that Joe thinks people need excuses to beat up women. My brother in Christ, they don't need an excuse, they just do it. And on that note, no, trans women aren't dominating women in sports. And I find it very interesting that we're focusing on such a small portion of the population instead of the actual issues facing women and girls in sports. Quote, women and girls face significant barriers in sports that have nothing to do with transgender inclusion, inequitable facilities, pay and marketing, abusive coaches, and racist, sexist, and homophobic harassment. End quote. But it is undoubtedly easier to harass and bully people who are already harassed and bullied. Well done, geniuses.
It's coming. It's coming in all forms of entertainment. They've figured out what you like. They've got a giant catalog of billions of hours of human beings paying attention to things, and it's coming. It's coming. It's going to overwhelm you, and it's going to be indiscernible from reality eventually. It's going to be something that you've physically experienced as well as visual. and audio. You're gonna have the whole experience.
We'd better enjoy ourselves while we can.
Yeah, have fun while you can.
They're talking about AI, by the way, and I'm not so convinced as they are that humans will just accept AI in everything without question. But we can't be lazy and complacent, especially with the way AI is being forced on us right now. Though it does occur to me that Chris and Joe both encourage lazy thinking. And I'm not really sure what the point of Joe's podcast is, though I noticed he does like to name drop, but Chris's at least purports to be about making life easier. Does being told women require a certain size of dick to be satisfied make someone's life better or easier in any way? Did Chris not mention the birth rate for once because they dismissed climate change? I'm just asking questions. Anyway, I think I have experienced enough of Joe Rogan to last me a while, but it really is amazing what they managed to drop in amongst the idle chit-chat. It's so mundane, and then transphobia and climate change denial. And on that note, W.A. Lawrence on Substack published this article on January 20th, Joe Rogan trained men to accept authoritarianism. Rogan spent years grooming Trump's base to equate toxic masculinity with strength and authoritarianism with safety. In 2026, that conditioning is locked in with force. I thought we could read some of it together because the Joe Rogan effect extends well beyond a single video. Quote, 15 months into Trump's presidency, the psychological conditioning Rogan delivered deepens. Millions of listeners, overwhelmingly male and independent-leaning, absorbed dominance signaling, grievance framing, and consequence erasure through Rogan's show, creating the psychological scaffolding now reinforcing Trump's authority. Joe Rogan reaches 10 to 11 million people every episode, a scale that matches the country's largest broadcasters but funnels through one personality who thrives on grievance and performance. His audience includes men who feel discarded by the institutions that shape their fathers' lives, dads checking their phones between shifts, and voters who make decisions when they are already exhausted and running on instinct. Rogan taps into simmering resentment built on the idea that feminism pushed men out of the center, that credentials replaced real ability, and that any directness coded as masculine invites punishment. He gives them a place where they never have to look inward, where the world's failures are always someone else's fault. Harris walked into that landscape carrying the authority of her record and the steadiness of someone who knows her work, and that alone made her a target. She represented the kind of competence his audience had been taught to distrust. Rogan spent years elevating strength as a performance, not as a responsibility, until muscle tone and swagger felt more credible than law, experience, or integrity. His endorsement mattered because it hit the exact psychological wires he spent years tightening: resentment, wounded pride, and the relief that comes from blaming anyone but yourself. That weight didn't accumulate by accident. It rewired how millions interpreted authority, conflict, and truth. Rogan's guest roster pushed that shift one voice at a time. Alex Jones made paranoia feel intuitive. Jordan Peterson cast hierarchy as the natural state. Brett Weinstein redirected skepticism towards science and turned expertise into a suspect class. Fighters and comedians turned domination into casual entertainment, stripping any sense of civic duty from the performance. Musk treated oversight as a threat to brilliance. Right-wing commentators recast democratic norms as tools of control. The result was a worldview built from repetition. Distrust knowledge, admire aggression, evade responsibility, and treat certainty as proof. So when Trump and Musk arrived in 2024, persuasion wasn't needed. Their presence triggered instincts the show had been hard-coding for years. The major moments of 2024 exposed how quickly that conditioning can be weaponized. Rogan booked Trump and Musk back-to-back, and the sequence itself functioned as a directive. Trump entered a space designed to amplify power and convert grievance into authority. Musk followed with polished contempt for limits and institutions. Together, they presented hierarchy as destiny, regulation as obstruction, institutions as adversaries, and accountability as punishment. That framing now gives Trump the emotional clearance he needs to accelerate second-year aggression without friction. Rogan's platform creates cognitive dissonance by elevating speculation disguised as insight and suspicion sold as depth, teaching his audience to read confidence as intelligence. The effect grows more corrosive as Trump escalates because the environment rewards force of delivery instead of truth. The Joe Rogan effect describes how scale, psychology, and monetization converge to erode civic judgment. Authority without scrutiny activates authoritarian traits, familiarity under cognitive load suppresses evaluation, moral disengagement dissolves consequence, endorsement signals push individuals toward obedience shaped by emotional relief rather than democratic responsibility. This influence strengthens through psychological alignment, economic incentive, and a persona built on failure rather than merit, shaping an audience conditioned to read cruelty as strength and deference as insight, accelerating authoritarian momentum, tightening its grip on public life. Rogan reinforced this conditioning through a steady glorification of dominance, often invoking the mantra that hard times create hard men to frame toughness as virtue and vulnerability as weakness. He dismissed toxic masculinity as crazy, collapsing feminist critique into overreaction while excusing behaviors that endanger women and destabilize civic life. This rhetoric trained his audience to read aggression as leadership and competence as threat, anchoring toxic masculinity as a compass for political loyalty and tightening the cultural logic that lifted Trump over Harris while punishing anyone who refuses to perform dominance on demand. End quote. I'll link the article below for anyone who wants to read in full, but this is so easy to see for people who aren't looking for, I don't even know, a hero? someone to tell them they're okay, everyone else is the problem. And it's also easy to see this reflected in their fans' comments. Sources are dismissed, appeals to critical thinking are scorned, the only thing trusted is the person telling them they're fine, they don't have to do anything, the world is out to get them, if they just do this one thing, everything will be okay. And I'm really not sure how to reach people who don't want to think, who are content with being given empty platitudes. You can give them all the proof you want, but even if they see something with their own eyes, there's always someone out there willing to spin it to confirm what they already believe. It's like when Pearl shills some cold calling company to her audience, and people still insist they love her. She has no conviction, she does nothing for them, except tickle their ears. And apparently, that's enough. And that's bleak. And that's it for this video. My socials and Patreon are linked below along with sources and resources. I would like to thank everyone for watching through to the end, and of course, I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons. Have a wonderful day, volunteer for something important to you, and I'll see you in the next one.